So we actually brought three people from our first store over to the second, and it made it a really easy open because they had all been with us for several years. They all understood our processes and they could just go. And so even from day one, we didn't have to be there every day. But we staffed the second store up knowing we're going to end up moving those people.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think that's the difference is like you've got to still have the people there to support the store. If you just take the staff, then you're killing that store and trying to start a new one at the same time. That's where
Yeah.
you're going to crash and burn.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. I'm Kelsey Outram, CEO and co-founder of Lift Auto Repair Marketing. And today we have another amazing guest. We have Lauren Keeton, based out of the Overland Park area, has a couple of shops out there. So, Lauren, thank you so much for joining with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Lauren, just to kind of kick us off, how did you get involved in the automotive industry? Where did you start?
So, my dad had a shop when I was a kid. I think I was in elementary school when he opened up. And it was actually something I never wanted to be involved with as an adult. It was stressful for our family, spend every weekend at the shop, and it just wasn't something that I wanted for my family. But I married a technician. He was okay with not having a shop if it wasn't something that I was on board with. But after we got married, he kind of started getting the itch and like talking about, oh, if I could just have this little 2 bay over here. He already had a shop at his mom's house that he did side work at. So he called me one day after work, and he'd gone on a test drive, and the perfect location was up. And so I decided that if we were going to do it, this was the place to do it. And during that time, too, my dad had really improved his shop. He'd gotten into coaching, and I started to get a glimpse of what it could be for our family. And so I told my husband, okay, we can do this, but I want to be out of the day-to-day within 5 years. We're going to get into coaching, and we're going to take whatever advice my dad is willing to give us. So I pulled the trigger on it in 2016, and we started out with my husband as the technician. We hired a service advisor right away. I didn't want to be on the front counter. We also had little kids that I was taking to work with me every day. So I was in the background doing marketing and bookkeeping. I would go to my dad's house every night, and he would teach me KPIs, teach me QuickBooks. So yeah, that's how we got started.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
In terms of, I love how you made the decision though early on to right away, like, I don't want to be at the front counter, and like we need to hire someone else. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't do that. They just like, we're bootstrapping this thing until it gets maybe to a certain point, and then like maybe we can afford someone else. So
Yeah.
what is that from? Because you grew up almost in a shop environment and knew that we need to do that, or like you just didn't want any part of being at the front counter? Or what was the reasoning behind like why you made the decision so quickly early on?
Um, I knew I didn't want any part of it. And my dad also like pushed us to make that hire right away. Like, don't put yourself on the front counter where you're both tied to it all day, every day. You've got little kids that you're bringing with you. I mean, our kids we had an 8-year-old, we had a 3-year-old, and we had a almost 1-year-old when we opened up. So, the 8-year-old was of course in school, but the two boys I was having to take with me every day. We found a preschool down the street that they could go to part-time. But they were still in the office with me every day. I had like this little closet of an office with a pack and play in it. And so I just knew like it wasn't sustainable for me to be on the front counter, nor did I have any desire. Like, I didn't have any sales experience, not something that I wanted to do at all.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. Just bringing them in, throwing them into a closet, and say, hey, good luck for a little bit.
I mean that closet, like, it literally is a closet. It's like a 7 foot by like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 foot. It's like this little bitty shoebox.
It's a perfect size for a pack and play.
Yeah, it's like a pack and play and a desk, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I think just current life situation kind of force your hand, but obviously, like, it's very helpful having that person on board right away. And so with that hire, having like, again, shop just starting, but you already are having a hire and now having to kind of manage them, what what was that like in terms of like running a shop is already like enough at times for some
Yeah.
owners, and now we have to manage someone right away while we're learning and figuring how to own it. Like what was that balance, or some kind of the ups and downs that you kind of learned through that process?
Um, I mean, I think the scariest part was like that not only are we responsible for our family's paycheck right away, but somebody else's family's paycheck
Mm.
immediately, right? And we had this big building with huge overhead for a brand new operation. I mean, it's a 10 bay shop. So
Wow.
it was a big purchase to make, and like a big leap to take right away. We didn't start in a small little building. It's a prime location with a large building. And so that part of it was the scary thing, was just trying to figure out, okay, we got to make this happen and we got to make it happen fast.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so then the growth, like obviously you guys have grown since then, but
Mm-hmm.
when the time comes to like obviously 10 bays, your husband being the tech, like that can't last forever. And so
No.
when did it start rolling in terms of like hiring more and more people to fill it up? And now what does like today present time look like in terms of full capacity?
So it was probably about a year in. He started hiring technicians, more like apprentice level guys to bring up. He had a really hard time hiring technicians just because he was a very high performing technician, both in skill and production.
Mm,
And so trusting somebody else with that part of the business was hard for him. Also, just wanting to make sure that there was enough work to support another family. Like that was his biggest fear, was bringing in a technician and there not being enough cars to take care of his family and ours.
mm.
Because we were paying him as if he was a technician. There was no owner's salary. He was working in the business, so he got paid as any other technician would.
Got it.
So it was about a year we started bringing people in. Now we're at the point where we've got four people in the front of house, two service advisors, a parts manager, and a general manager. And then back of house, we've got six technicians and two quality control porters.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so the obviously I love speaking with like husband and wife owners and kind of that delineation of duties and how that comes to be. Sometimes there's a lot of like we need our space. Sometimes we're like, nope, like we know each other's roles and how this works. So
Yeah.
for you both, like did it because David, your husband, because he
Hmm.
had the technician background, was it like he handles the back of the house, you handle the front of the house, or was it like nope, you handled the books and the financials and the marketing, and he handled that other operational? Like, oh, how did that balance look for both of you? How did you go about deciding who was going to do what?
Um, he's done more operational, definitely back of the house stuff. Um, Front of the house, I've I've done more of the training on the front of the house side, and definitely all of the background, like bookkeeping, operational, as far like financials.
Mhm.
But it was a pretty natural split for us. We definitely had to sit down and like go through the list of all the things that need to be done and be like, well, we both kind of hate doing that thing. So who's going to take it on?
Definitely. And so then, and at the office, I mean, both you guys are partners in it, and like
Mhm.
sometimes it's tricky being like, okay, who is like leading a meeting, or who's leading like who is taking charge in one element, or we can't have our employees see us disagreeing about something. So how did
Yeah.
you go about doing that? I'm sure like you learned along the way, and I'm sure mistakes were made, but how did you both go about figuring out that balance? Were you guys both always in the office at the same time? Was it like nope, we like offset times? What did that look like?
Um, we're pretty much together 24/7. I mean, drive to work together, the whole nine. So I was pretty much the one that would, handle the team meetings and things like that. Before we started the shop, I was a teacher. And so it's just more natural for me to get up in front of the team and talk than it was for him. So that part of it, I just kind of naturally stepped into.
Yeah, no, okay, that makes a lot of sense then, having that teacher background and just like teaching
Yeah.
your class and going about that. So I'm sure then you were very good about being, or I mean, what grade did you teach?
Third or no, fourth and fifth grade special ed.
Yeah, oh, well, I guarantee that you were very organized, exactly on what the agenda and things should have been while you were a teacher. So I'm sure that carried over then. So at the shop, are there a lot of written out processes and SOPs there, or what is your guys' style that you guys have there to ensure that, hey, everyone knows their role and what should be done?
Yeah. I mean, we have basically like a key to key manual that I've written out. Employees get on hire that is like from the time the phone rings until the time the customer picks up their car and leaves. And really that just kind of contains everything. You would think that I was super organized. I'm really not. Like, I'm not an organized person, and that's probably like the biggest detriment to both of us. Is we're kind of very similar in that. So yeah, I mean, I have like a key to key process. Phone rings to the customer picks up, and that tells everybody everything that they need to know. Where I'm not in the shops anymore, so they know how to handle it. Really, any step by step thing they need is in that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's still a lot more organized than a lot of other people have their shops at. So don't discredit yourself too much in terms of at least having that key to key and what should be going on, what should be happening. And
yeah,
as the shop started growing, so obviously I know you guys have two shops, and so at what point was it like, hey, this first shop is ready? Like we're both kind of out of the day to day, and we're just kind of running it at like from home or kind of in and out as needed, and now we're like, we need something else to do, and that's why we bought another shop. Or what did that process look like when it went from 1 to 2?
Yeah, so 2021 we really started pulling ourselves back. We put a manager in place, and we were just kind of there as needed. We did a lot of working from coffee shops. I think we found like every coffee shop in a 20-mile radius of the shop. Because we still had, we live 40 minutes away from our shops, but we still had a kiddo going to preschool up by the shop. So we had to be up in the area, but we didn't want to be in the shop. We wanted to start to let it go on its own and basically trial run it, see how it does without us, because we did not want to start a second shop without that one being fully independent, without us in the day-to-day at all. So 2021 is when we really started that process. And then in 2022, we were driving back home from a conference, and kind of casually started talking about location 2. There was a shop away from us that had been shut down since 2020. The owner had passed away, and it was tied up in his estate. So it was not on the market, but it was not operational. So we're just kind of casually talking about it, and like, I wonder what's happening with that. So I look up the address, and it had just gone on the market like that day or the day before.
Wow.
And so we're like, well, maybe we'll look at it. So it kind of turned into this snowball effect. And it took us a while to actually close on it. We didn't close on it until January of 23. So it was about a 6-month process.
Okay.
To actually get the deal done. But yeah, I mean, that particular location was beneficial for us because we're starting to run into parking issues at the first store, especially in summer during our busiest months. I was having to send a couple cars to the body shop every summer because like the parking lot just got so crowded. It was inevitable. Like something was going to happen. And then, so it was an opportunity to expand that. Also, we did about 10% of our work was Euro, but we never directly advertised Euro, which just all makes and models. And so it gave us an opportunity to expand within our current market, advertising directly to Euro and splitting it off into that store. And then, of course, it kept us from having another competitor come in 3 blocks away from us. So that's how we ended up with that particular location and splitting off and doing both a Euro and an Asian domestic.
I love that. And so, and then that's a great segue because I wanted to dig in a little bit because you have a unique situation where not many people decide to have both, like a general auto repair store and a Euro store. Usually people are like, I want one or the other, or maybe they have one, like, I wonder what the other would be like. And if I decide to either silo down or just open it all up. So I'm curious in terms of why, like, was that a tough, I guess first off, was it a tough decision to decide that, hey, this second store is going to be Euro only, and then we'll kind of keep going from there?
No, I mean, it was the thing that made the most sense, without having to come up with a completely separate brand, market 2 brands that close together. And then really we knew that there was enough Euro opportunity in the area that we're in. You know, we ran numbers, car counts, all of that before we ever like put a name on the building. But yeah, it made more sense to us to have basically a branch off than having to come up with completely separate branding. We were able to carry our reputation that way, and then we weren't competing with ourselves.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that makes 100% sense. I mean, having the same brand 3 blocks apart would be very tricky from a marketing perspective. I think that was definitely a wise decision doing it that way. But I'm curious, so for those, again, that there's people that are very passionate about being a Euro shop, or people are very passionate about not focusing and just like doing everything. What are the pros and cons that maybe you've learned on both sides of things that, again, just for the audience sake, that as you've gone through and learned on both sides of the business, because obviously, yes, they're similar, but I'm sure they have the intricacies and different things about it. So we'll start with the general side. So what are the pros and cons there? And then we'll compare it to the pros and cons of Euro when you're just looking at them kind of side by side.
On the general repair side, I mean, that's really all we've ever known. So like that was easy. Yep. When we first started our business, my dad was like, this would be a great location for Euro. And my husband had worked in that location. He actually worked in that specific building when he started his career.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, I know it's a good spot for Euro. Like I've worked in this area for 20 years. I see them all the time, but I want any car that I can get, right? And so that's why we went the general route, because it was easier to just get any car that we can get than doing that targeted marketing, the specific tooling, the technicians that are not afraid to work on them. I think that's been like the biggest challenge for us, is like finding technicians who, I don't even care necessarily if they're factory trained. My husband was never factory trained, but he wasn't afraid to work on anything. And finding similar technicians is interesting, because what I've kind of found is like they're all either one way or the other. They're all like dealer, factory trained, that's the only way, or they're like, a car's a car, it's all nuts and bolts, I'll figure it out.
Gotcha. No, I think that's a great delineation. And so have you found it easier to, like, was it easier to have the general side grow, or was it easier to have the Euro side grow? Granted, again, you had way more experience going into the second store and having the Euro, but still, I mean, if you were looking at it, which one would you feel like was the easier growth path?
I mean, market dependent, right? Like, yep. General repair, I think, is probably easier for most people because you'll take anything. It doesn't matter what logo's on it. And from the customer standpoint, a lot of the Euro customers, like, they don't think that anyone else has the training or the ability to work on those vehicles, where somebody that drives a Toyota Camry is like, yeah, here, work on it, right? So now store 2 for us wasn't like a particularly difficult startup. But like you said, we already had the experience and the support system through coaching to get it
Mhm.
done. So like if somebody is really struggling with car count and the metrics don't really support just Euro, like I'm always like, open it up, open it up. You don't have to do just Euro. You can make plenty of money doing everything.
Mm.
And that, from a coaching perspective, is kind of what I see when I meet other shop owners that are like kind of stuck in the mud. I'm like, well, I only do Volkswagens. Well, maybe you should open it up a little bit if you need some more cars.
Yeah, and I think, do you think a lot of that is just people stuck in their ways of like, hey, this is just how we've done it, or this is what I feel like we're only good at, or do you think it's maybe something else that is kind of creating like a no, we don't want to open it up to everything.
I would say most of what I've seen is like fear-based. Like, this is
Mm.
what I know. You know, I was a brand-specific technician, and so that's all I know, and that's what I'm going to stick with. So I think fear plays a lot into it.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right on that, where it's like that fear of the unknown of like, if I do this though, what if we don't know how
Hmm.
to do another car, or do anything like that? And so does it just come down to then just trusting the team and their capabilities and knowing that, yeah, like talking to them first and be like, I'm planning on doing this, and opening it up. Do you think we're ready for it? Or is it just deciding like, you know what, I can't think about this too much anymore. We just need to do it.
I think it's just deciding and trusting yourself as a leader to present it to your team. Be like, look, this is what we need to do to grow the business and to grow your paycheck.
Mm.
And then trusting yourself as a leader to be able to hire the people who are going to get you to that next level. Because sometimes you do just need to add to your team, but you've
Yeah.
got to have enough confidence in yourself and your ability to get those people in the door.
Gotcha. And so at the two different stores now, for like, because one is kind of a general auto repair, one is Euro based, I'm assuming the technicians can't then swap back and forth, or is it just like a note, like we hire for a more broad skill set and they are able to do that as needed because it's so close? Like what does that sort of game plan look like for your shops?
We hire store specific. In the very beginning with the Euro store, so we ended up pulling a tech from the main store over to the Euro store. Not that that is something I recommend. Like, you don't want to kill your golden goose.
Yeah.
But for this employee, it was the best move. And so in the very beginning, when we didn't have the car count to support him because he is a super high hour turner, and the other store was overwhelmed because it's the end of the year and they're trying to crank everything out to get it on that year's books. There were a couple times where like, hey, like shuttle this car over here and he can work on it and get it done for you. And we'll take care of the bookkeeping part of it on the backside. But now, like, there's plenty of cars at both stores that's never a thing anymore.
Yeah, no, I think I love that in terms of also disclaiming that. So I've also heard people like before maybe they go in from the first to the second, like they almost like overstaff their first and in preparation of when the second is ready, then they move those some of those people over. Would you consider that a really good practice, or do you recommend almost a different game plan when you're going from that one to then starting the second?
I think if you're staffing the store with the intention of moving somebody, I think that's great because they've already understand your processes and they're just like ready to go opening day. And there's a difference between doing that and just not having the staff and pulling somebody away. So we actually brought 3 people from our first store over to the second, and it made it a really easy open because they had all been with us for several years. They all understood our processes and they could just go. And so even from day one, we didn't have to be there every day. But we staffed the second store up knowing we're going to end up moving those people. So I think that's the difference, is like, you've got to still have the people there to support the store. If you just take the staff, then you're killing that store and trying to start a new one at the same time. That's where you're going to crash and burn.
I could create kind of 2 headaches for yourself when one headache is already
Exactly.
enough. And I love how you labeled it kind of the golden goose, where like, yeah, you got to the point where, hey, this is working. There's no
Yeah.
point in doing something to like now break that because you're
Yeah.
like panicking of like, hey, this second one needs to be able to work. So I love that. I'm curious in terms of you mentioned a little bit about the Euro customer expecting like, oh, only a Euro shop can handle that. So
Hmm.
is there like currently a big difference in the customer mindset between a general shop and the Euro shop that you've seen, even with your shops being so close together? Obviously, they're from the same culture, same neighborhood, they're growing up in the same places. But is there a big difference in terms of mindsets and personalities and type of people that come into the stores?
Um, there is somewhat. I mean, we always ran our first store as like you walk in and you don't feel like you're in a shop.
Hmm.
And that was my goal from day one. And so it wasn't as harsh of a transition for us because I've always operated that way. Um, and so I think that's the difference is those Euro customers really expect that, where general repair customers don't always necessarily expect that. But the demographics that we're in, like that was just how I wanted to operate from day one. So it was a super easy like set up and operate the same way we always have.
Okay, and to dive in a little bit deeper, what do you mean by not feel like a shop? Like what sort of like, again, aesthetics or fine tuning exactly that's in there? So that way
Yeah.
people can kind of envision in their mind, like if their shop feels like a normal shop or not.
Yeah. I mean, like you walk into my shop, there's always fresh flowers on the table.
Okay.
Um, there's a coffee bar. There is there's decor on the wall that is not automotive related whatsoever.
Mm,
Like the only indication that you have that this office is attached to an auto shop is that there's a window that you can see into the shop, but there's
mm.
nothing automotive related in the waiting room whatsoever.
Okay. No, and is there is that due to so say for example, is our majority of customers female, and that's why like that's the right course, and because you obviously relate to them and understand what they need, or have you guys played with that over time of like, oh, we need to adjust these little things in the front, or what does that kind of that path look like in the front?
Um, yeah, I mean, we definitely have, our ideal customer is the mom with the large SUV or the minivan that's busy and trying to get the kids everywhere, or the dad with the truck that's getting the kids to soccer practice, right? That family dynamic. And customers don't care about the displays of the old shocks, right? Like they just want to
Yeah.
know that their car is going to get them reliably to where they need to go and that their kids are going to be safe. And so we just took all of that out. Like there was never any reason for me to want to have that stuff because my customers don't care. If my service advisors are doing their job, they're explaining it. They may show them pictures of their own vehicle. If they're there in the shop, we might take them out and show them their own vehicle, but they don't need to look at it in the waiting room.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And so in terms of cost, so sometimes people are like, well, like this sounds great in theory, but I can't afford to do all these things, and that people talk about. But really, I think there's also a misunderstanding of like how much something costs, at least in my opinion. So I don't know for you, like if you could kind of like generalize, like, hey, to uplift a typical shop, it probably would look like this much dollars. Like what do you think that sort of looks like today?
Um, you know, a coat of paint goes a really long way. Like you can go buy a gallon of paint and paint your office and completely change everything, right?
Mm.
And taking down the automotive displays, it doesn't cost you anything to remove them. And a vase of flowers, I mean, I spend $15 at Sam's and they last 2 weeks. Like,
Nice.
so it doesn't have to be expensive, right? Like, if you're doing decor on the walls, like, you can go to, you can go to like an overstock type store, like you
Yeah.
can go to TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, like those types of stores, and really do it fairly inexpensively. You could start off with some cheap leather chairs off of Amazon and upgrade them later. Like if they last a couple years, cool, you got your money's worth out of them. So you don't have to spend a lot to make it nice. And man, I think a coat of paint is like the biggest thing you could do.
Yeah, I feel like that's the kind of the secret hack. Is literally just like just get some paint, slap it on the walls, do a good job there, and
Yeah.
like, again, it feels like, oh my goodness, did you just renovate the whole office? What happened here?
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens. Some pushback that I've seen also is that people are like, well, I don't even want any waiters. I don't even want people to come into the office really. Like, so why does it matter that I'm going to invest this dollar in it? So I guess what would you say to those people that are like, I think it's just going to be a waste of money since I only do drop-offs or whatever it may be. Like, would you still think it's needed?
Yeah. So for my business model, like we don't do a ton of waiters. Like we certainly do waiters. And I want a comfortable place for them to be, but I also just want that first impression when somebody walks in to be, wow, this is really nice. And they're going to take care of my car.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing to me, because a new customer drives up to your shop and they're looking at the outside and evaluating, do I want to leave my car here?
Yeah.
They walk in the front door, they're doing the same thing. Do I want to trust my car here? And so just that first impression is really important to me, whether they're going to drop off or wait.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it on the head there in terms of that first impression reflects on every future visit that they're deciding upon going to the store.
Yep.
You don't want a one-time visit. Like, it was already hard enough through the marketing dollars or the investment or whatever you've done to convince them to even show up to the store. And now to be like, oh, because you had a bad first impression of like, oh, the floors in the office were dirty, and there's like the pictures on the walls are hanging crooked, and there's paint peeling off the wall, like little things that are here and there, and you're like, people just a subconscious thing, do these people care? And if they don't, they don't care about what it's gonna look like, they're gonna care about my car and fix it the right way. Maybe like, sure, I'm here this time and they'll take care of it this time, but I probably am not gonna come back here ever again.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing to think about that a lot of people kind of disregard, because they're just like, they just see the dollar signs of like, I don't need to spend that money because they're not even in the office for that long. It's almost like the same thing when sometimes people talk about websites. It's like, no one visits the website anymore. Why does it even need to look good or do anything? But obviously there's a lot in the background that goes into it that then applies to people deciding what to do there. So I love that you knew right away to make that effort. So does the Euro shop look any different? Like, because obviously you had that mindset already going into the general, and you mentioned like it wasn't as hard of a transition, but was there still even more up leveling that needed to be done in the Euro shop that you guys felt needed to be done?
Yeah. So when we designed that, because we did a complete remodel in that building, and so when we designed that unit that our offices and customer service area are in, we did the 2-stage counter. So there is a desk up front and then office space in the back, and the advisors have to go through a door to come up to the customer. There's a window so they can acknowledge them as they come in. And when we designed that space, I was very conscious of doing higher end finishes there. So we've got like the white quartz countertop, we've got nice tile work in the coffee bar. So in the Euro store, we did a complete remodel when we took over that building. So in that store, I designed a 2-stage counter setup. So there is a desk up front, but the service advisors are in a private office separate from the customer waiting area. Eventually, I'll do that with the general repair store, but I haven't gotten to it yet. But so in that store, I just really focused on higher end finishes. We've got the white quartz countertop. We've got a stone ledge face on the desk. Some really nice custom tile work in the coffee bar. Really nice leather seating. So we just tried to do some higher end finishes over there, even though the waiting room over there is actually smaller than it is over at the other store.
Oh, interesting. And so that style of finish was just kind of like, where did you gather that from? Like seeing dealerships, or like what gave you that idea to like kind of go about doing it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in a few dealerships here and there, not very many. I tend to stay away.
Yeah.
But visiting other shops too. and just wanting to level up and set that store apart. We already focused on that. Don't feel like you're going into a shop experience at the general repair store. And so doing those higher end finishes just kind of leveled it up just enough at the Euro store to make people walk in and say, wow, like this is really nice. I feel good about dropping this car off here.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm just curious as a little side topic, but the people that go to the Euro or the General, I'm assuming sometimes they have vehicles that go to both, or do they? Is that a regular thing that happens then?
Yeah. We've got customers that have, a vehicle of, wife drives a BMW that goes to the Euro store, husband drives a Silverado that goes to the regular store. So yeah, that's pretty common.
Okay, no, that's awesome. I mean, that works out that both are so close together and do that. So, is the values that maybe like each shop has, or the unique service proposition that each shop has, are they the same because you as the owners have preached that, or because one is General, one is Euro, they need to be slightly different? What does that sort of look like?
Really, we run them very similarly. Our General Auto is not a budget brand.
Yeah.
Right. Like we've got a lot of chain stores around us. And so to set ourselves apart from them, we already were putting in all of those value items. We have loaner cars at both stores, but the loaner cars at the Euro store are higher end. There are Euro cars that match what those customers are going to be dropping off. Whereas the loaner cars at the general repair store, we have a Honda Odyssey and we have Kia Fortes. So they're both getting loaner cars, but they're getting a nicer one at the Euro store, right? But other than little things like that, we really run them very, very similarly.
Yeah, and I think that this speaks to how you both have created a business that becomes more of a value-based pricing versus a commodity-based pricing, and that allows you not to have to compete to the bottom. It's just like, hey, there's all these other things that are taking place and happening, and then as there's cars at both stores, like say like we just talked about, you have families that they have cars that go to both stores. Doesn't feel like it was a completely different place. They're like, oh, they've spent way less money at this store than they spent at this store, or whatever. I mean, so I think that's great that like the brand expectation is still at a very high standard, regardless of where people might end up or go. So I think
yeah, don't get me wrong, I still do a cheap oil change, right? Like
everyone needs those cars to get into the door. But I think what definitely probably sets you all apart when they get there is that entire feel, and like all the information that they're given, and that allows them to have that trust to like, I am absolutely coming back here next time because they have earned my trust now at this point. So
yes,
Lauren, I think like everything that you've shared with us has been absolutely amazing. So I really appreciate it. And I think what you and David have grown has been very unique and special, but you guys are both doing an amazing job of like up-leveling your area and then expectation. And now you're a coach and coaching others. So giving back to the community just constantly. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. As a parting gift for everyone, I always ask, but what is a book that maybe you recommend some owners read, and hopefully owners do read books and they commit to doing this, but what is one that maybe you're like, you know what, this one I think will make a big difference for people?
So one that I just recently finished is called Shackleton's Way. And it's the story of Ernest Shackleton, who was the captain of the ship, the Endurance. And so it talks about lessons in leadership and how he was able to take this crew down to the Antarctic. They got stranded for months and he brought everyone back alive and they still loved him. And so it was a really easy, short read it was really cool just seeing like snippets of what people thought of him as a leader through this journey. Yeah,
and I think the book's about like ships. There's always metaphors with ships and crews and the direction, and so that's probably a perfect one where people are like, oh, this all makes sense in terms of I've heard all these different metaphors, and now but it's like in real life where like, this actually did happen, and so then I appreciate you sharing that with me. And then for those that maybe want to reach out to you that are like, hey, you know what? Like, I love what you've shared, or they're another husband and wife team that like, it sounds like Lauren and David have a lot figured out that we need to get to this point too. Like, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
You could email me. My email is lauren@keetonautorepair.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll throw that down in the description. And for those that are still watching, thank you so much for constantly watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. But Lauren, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Kelsey with Lift Auto Repair Marketing. Talk to you guys again next time. Bye.